Nation's Attic, finding authentic, antique, vintage diving helmets from the depths of the sea and the internet, serving the collector, investor, and museums worldwide. Nation's Attic is your source for what others want.
Hello again, my name is Don Creekmore, owner of the Nation's Attic, and today we have a fantastic, authentic antique diving helmet for sale that we just found and is new and fresh to the collector market. Now, we purchased this particular helmet from a family in Connecticut who had had it in their possession for as long as they could remember. When we got the helmet in, we did a little bit of initial research, and actually in the Morse records, we found the individual back in 1936 in Connecticut who sent this helmet in for work to Morse. But before we get into the fascinating history of this helmet, let's focus in a little bit on the particular helmet itself. Now, this helmet's what's referred to as a 4-light 12-bolt helmet, and this is the classic commercial style helmet that was being used at the turn of the century into the teens, 20s, and 30s. Now, actually, most helmets that Morse made during this time period were referred to as 3-light helmets, but this particular one is a 4-light, indicating the fourth or extra window here at the top, which Morse would put on for an extra charge. Now, also here, as we mentioned, 12-bolt helmet. It's got the 12 bolts or wing nuts here along the outer edge of the breastplate. Now, the helmet is somewhat unique. As we mentioned here, we've got the fourth light on top. But up here on the front, you'll notice the exhaust valve right here on the front right of the helmet. Somewhat an unusual location for helmets like this. In most cases, this was here around back. In most of the old Morse catalogs that we find, you're going to see this here in the back. Now, this was probably something that the individual, the owner of the helmet, he wanted it there for his particular reasons. Now, the other interesting part about the helmet is we have a flat horizontal bar here right at the front. Might be hard to see here in the video, but this has two rather large holes in it. Now, this might have been put on there as a more economical alternative to clamps that Morse would put on some other helmets for hoses, line, things like that. So we've got that, which is somewhat unique as well. Now, also here, in addition to that, on the inside of the helmet, if we swing around here to the back, we've got the air fitting on the back, and we've also got an original old non-return valve still attached to it. But if you look up inside of the bonnet, it does not have the typical air vents found on most helmets. It's actually got one pipe going up here to the very top peak of the bonnet, and that's where the air would exit to supply the diver. So a somewhat unique, interesting way that Morse did some stuff to this particular helmet. Now, as we mentioned earlier, this helmet has a little bit of history that we found behind it, which is really interesting and actually pretty difficult to find with any of these helmets anymore. But when we received the helmet, we started inspecting it and noticed that luckily it does have serial numbers on each one of the 4 brails, and that's to be expected with Morse helmets from this time period. But what we found was we have a braille here with serial number 1111. We look over here, we've got a serial number of 1110. We go around to the back, 1114. Now, that indicates that the helmet obviously was mixed up with other helmets, probably just like it. The person that originally ordered this helmet probably ordered a number of them, and over time those brails got mixed up. Now, interestingly enough, these serial numbers do date the helmet to the 1899 time period. Now, as we look up in here, initially we were a little bit disappointed or discouraged when we noticed that the serial number located up here at the neck ring on the bonnet, and actually on this bar as well, the same number, is 3656, which is way off, a lot different than down here. But when we inquired or looked into the serial number records that are available, we found that serial number 3656 dates to March 19th, 1936. But an interesting notation next to their records says, quote, rebuilt from bolt type, meaning that when this helmet was sent into Morse, it was rebuilt to current configuration. But before it looked like this, it was actually a bolt style helmet, meaning you had large bolts, probably 5 of them around the neck ring, that would swing up, and that's what would seal the bonnet to the breastplate. Now, bolt type helmets found today are quite rare, and a lot of times those bolt style helmets were converted just like this one was in 1936. Now, as we mentioned earlier as well, we purchased this helmet from a family in Connecticut. Now, also in the serial number records, it actually has the individual's name and his address in New Haven, Connecticut that sent this helmet in. Now, it indicates that there was actually a number of helmets at this time period with very close serial numbers that were all rebuilt from bolt types. So probably, as we can see here, we've got these serial numbers on the brails that are very close but a little bit mixed up. But more than likely, the individual had helmets probably 1110 through 1114. He probably sent all of those in and had them worked on or updated into this configuration. Hence the very close serial numbers on here. But really fascinating information to know that probably this helmet's working history, its entire life of being a working helmet, was in Connecticut, probably the New Haven, Connecticut. If we look up his address today, we see that he was right there on the water as well. Now, we'll send that address, that name information, everything that we've mentioned here, we'll have that in a certificate of authenticity that we'll send with this particular helmet. Now, in addition to the helmet's history, it also has a fantastic original patina to it. It has a classic look to it. Just wonderful. Anytime somebody sees this helmet, even if they're not a collector, they're going to know this is something truly antique and truly special. Now, with any helmet that was an actual working helmet, it's going to have a few issues with it. It's not going to be in mint condition. This one's going to have some of the typical working dents here along the top. None of them are severe. You've got the air fitting back here and this fitting here. They're pushed in just a little bit. Once again, not incredibly severe. We've got the glass up here in this fourth light. It's shattered. It's still there. It's still tight. It's not coming out. It is secure, but you can't see through it. That glass could be replaced. We chose to just go ahead and leave it in there as the original. So we've got that up there. This light is just barely pushed in a little bit as well. So once again, visually not a distraction, but it's just some of the little things that we certainly want to mention with any helmet that we sell. Now, once again, we don't often get these classic commercial style helmets like this. Compared to the Mark V's, which are extremely popular, these helmets like this are much, much harder to find, especially in this condition, and especially ones with the interesting serial number history that this has. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Our country code is 1, our area code is 316-371-1828. You can also text us at that same number. Our email address is helmets@nationsattic.com as well. Now, Nations Attic has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, and we're a sponsoring member of the Historical Diving Society here in the United States of America, and we're also members of the Historical Diving Societies in the United Kingdom and Australia. Once again, my name is Don Creekmore, owner of the Nations Attic, and I look forward to talking to you.